All right, how's it going, everyone? Welcome back to another tying video from Misty Mountains Guiding Service. I'm Michael, and today we're going to be tying the mini Jig Pig. So we're going to start out with a Gamakatsu size 4 stinger hook. We'll go ahead and get that in the vise. I'm getting kisses from a little sage dog. Hi, girly. So this fly is very similar to the last video I did, which is the normal Jig Pig. Let me make sure the hook is in focus there. Yeah, perfect. Only on a way smaller scale. I use this particular pattern more for panfish. It's got good carp applications. If smallmouth are being really finicky, I'll throw one of these. Definitely a very subtle pattern, very, what's the word I'm looking for? It'll come to me. Anyway, we're gonna start by just wrapping down the hook shank up until you get to the bend here. Don't go past the bend. And then you can cut that off, or I fold it back and tie it back in because it's GSP and it's kind of a pain to cut sometimes when you don't have a good way to grab onto it. So we've laid down our thread base. I'm gonna bring it back up to right about there. We want a little bit of space in between the hook eye here and the thread, but not a lot. And the reason for that is we want this to be a jigging fly, not a swimming fly. So when we attach our lead eyes, which we're gonna use, should we go red or chartreuse? Let's go chartreuse. We're making a brown fly, so let's go chartreuse. Lighten it up a little bit. We're using, I think these are, yep, they're extra small size lead eyes. So when you attach your lead eyes up here, and we're gonna be going hook point up, the way we're going to tie this in. When you tie these in, it will create more of a jigging action instead of a swimming action. Whereas if you were to put your lead eyes back here, you'd get more of a swimming action. So we're going to tie them in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. A little bit more thread out. And sorry for blocking the camera here. 3, 4, 5. I'm doing the best I can. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And when I'm doing that, especially on these later turns, I'm kind of adjusting these lead eyes, just micro adjustments to make sure they're on straight. So in this case, I kind of want to throw one, maybe another one more in there. I'm kind of holding and turning at the same time. I just want that seated perfectly. I'll come over and under here, and I'm gonna wrap basically on the thread wraps under these lead eyes. So I'm gonna go from side to side, and I'm pulling pretty tight, and this is why I use GSP for even a smaller fly like this, so I can really crank down on it and seat these lead eyes where I want them. So those are seated pretty good. If you're anal, you can throw a couple cross wraps in there. And if you're like me and you're tying for production, I would super glue these, but I didn't grab my super glue for this video, so we're gonna go without. But production flies, you really want to, or if you're gonna fish these flies like they should be fished, which is on the bottom, you're gonna be knocking it into stuff, you're gonna be knocking the paint off these eyes, and that little bit of super glue on those thread wraps does help. So now that we've got our eyes, we need our tail. So we're gonna wrap back again. Let me go down a little bit further there. And we're gonna spin our thread. And while we're doing that, we're gonna grab our tail material. I hope you guys can see that. It's an Armor All car washing pad. That's literally what this is. It's Mop Material, and that's gonna be our tail. So on this particular pad, you've got these Mop Materials, what would you even call this? Little nuggets, little orange nuggets that they're maybe, what's the length of the hook there? Oh, I'm gonna put it up against my ruler here. They're exactly 1 inch actually, so good to know there. And I want it right on the tail. So our thread has been spun, it's very corded, it's very tight, and we can pull really hard on it and really seat this material. And we want it seated right on the top of the hook there. And sometimes, if you've ever tied with this Mop material, sometimes it tries to come apart on you and do some weird stuff. So every once in a while, you may have to cut a second piece and try again, but this one I think I might get. Tie it down tight. This is another part of this fly. If you wanted to super glue it, you could. I generally don't. I've never had these come off, but I don't trust Mop material all the time. I've had some issues with it in the past, just tying your basic mop flies. So never a bad idea to go ahead and do that. You can find these probably at Walmart or anywhere, really. I actually found this at a Mennonite market. I'm in mid-Missouri, and there's a lot of Mennonite communities around here, so you never know what you're gonna find. Okay, so our next material is going to be some polar chenille. This is UV, hairline UV, what color is that? Rusty copper UV polar chenille. Fresh pack, gotta find the end. And when we're finding the end, there's 2 ends, obviously. There's a end where it lays back, which is gonna be this end, and then there's gonna be the end where it doesn't. Don't use that end, use the end where it's laying back. That way, when we tie the salmon and start polymering up the hook shank, it lays backwards. So spin my thread a little bit there just to cord it up, get a good bite on this material. Kind of starting with some looser wraps and then working my way into some tighter wraps to really cinch that down. And then we're gonna go ahead and wrap all the way up to the lead eyes there. And I'll even throw in, since we're gonna use the rotary function on this vise, I'm gonna throw in a couple of half hitches. Pull the thread back in, and I started doing this recently and I really like this. I'm gonna pre-spin my bobbin. I don't know if you guys can see that. I'm spinning the bobbin there, cording up the thread. I'm gonna pre-spin it. And while I'm doing that, I can't swing it this way. I'm gonna have to swing it this way here. I'm gonna get my bobbin cradle ready, and I'm going to seat it to where the thread won't unravel. So now that we've done that, we're gonna hold the entire bunch of the polymer chenille here in one hand, and we're gonna start rotating. And the reason why I do it like this is your only other option is to cut a piece of this off of the roll of material here, and just grabbing the whole length of this material eliminates the need to cut chunks off and therefore eliminates waste. Because who wants to waste this stuff? It's expensive, right? So as you can see, I'm turning it. I'm preening these fibers back with every turn, just helping them go the direction that I want them to. As I'm releasing more material down towards the fly, I'm pulling these fibers out as well, as you can see. We're just taking our time. It's a fairly quick fly, so even if you take your time, you're still gonna churn out a bunch of these per hour. And we're going all the way up to the lead eyes, and I even throw a couple extra wraps under those lead eyes sometimes. So we've got our thread pre-spun already. We're going to go ahead and tie that down. And that pre-spun thread is gonna get a good grip on it. A couple tighter wraps, not going anywhere. And if you want to, after that, you can even switch your grip up a little bit here and wrap a couple times like that on top of what you just tied off. That's a good practice to get into. I do that quite a bit. Cut your material there, looking good so far. So as you can tell, the polar chenille is about the same length as the Mop Material here. So you don't have to do this. I do it sometimes. I'll come in here and I'll just cut a little bit. And I'm not always doing a straight cut. Like I did kind of a straight cut there. I might come in the sides and just kind of give it a little bit of a haircut there. Cool. All right, guys, we're down to our final material. And this is just some rubber leg skirting stuff here. If you build spinnerbaits, jigs, anything like that, I'm sure you've bought this before. We're gonna go ahead and since it comes in a roll like this is some older material that somebody actually gave me. Since it comes in a roll, you can see how it's welded right here. So I'm gonna cut that weld and then it'll look more like it does when it comes in a fly tying package like that. And I'm gonna grab, what is that gonna be? Like 10 strands maybe ish. I'll count them out. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So 12 strands. It's not a science. I didn't even know how many I was grabbing there. So we're going to wrap this around the back of the thread, kind of like if you're tying in like flashabou. And I'm just gonna pick that thread up and I'm gonna set that down. And then I'm gonna do a couple, 1, 2, 3 loose wraps. Loose wraps, not necessarily corded thread. We're not trying to tie this in yet. What we're trying to do is manipulate these legs around the lead eyes and around the hook shank here. And we want it completely 360 surrounded. And that's gonna create our jig skirt, if you will. So I'm once again taking my time. I'm not in a rush. I'm just kind of making sure everything is positioned where I want it to. And then we're gonna tighten this thread up. Now remember, we're using gel spun thread, GSP 100 in this particular scenario. If you cord this thread up and pull tight on it, you'll cut every piece of this rubber leg material. So we wanna make sure this is not corded. We're gonna come over and we're gonna pull tight, but not insanely tight. We're pulling tight enough to seat the material, not cut it. So we're gonna do a few moderately tight wraps, but like I said, not too tight. Perfect. And then we're gonna come in here, we're gonna move all this polar chenille back as best we can, and where you cut this is kind of dealer's choice. I vary it up. Sometimes I'll cut back here. Sometimes I'll cut up here too. Just kind of depends on how I'm feeling. So we cut about yay long there. And then on the front, we're gonna do a pretty short cut on the front. We're gonna cut right about there. Perfect. And I know I said this is my final material, but now that I'm at this point, I realized that I forgot a material. So I'm gonna run and grab some dubbing real quick. And we got dubbing. Sorry about that, guys. So this is black dub, Peacock black ice dub. And it was literally the first dubbing that I grabbed. As you can see, I don't really care about colors on this too much. I tie them in so many different colors and varieties, and I'm just picking this dubbing apart right now. So many colors and varieties that, you know, almost every one of these is a new variation. And you can, on the last video, I did a dubbing loop. I'm just gonna throw a little noodle on there, and I packed it pretty tight, which is probably gonna be a mistake, but we'll see. Preen these legs back, and we're gonna start wrapping over. So I told you that was gonna be a mistake. And I'm kind of just retwisting there. And then I'm gonna start coming over like that and finish it off there. I'm checking the bottom to make sure dubbing's covering pretty much everything there. Got some legs that are a little bit out of whack. All right. And from here, we're gonna whip finish and we're done. So I'll throw a few in there. I've been using this fly. I'm filming this in late July 2022. I've been using this fly this summer for carp, and for a more gaudy, bigger carp presentation, I really like it. If you can get it far enough in front of them to where this fly landing doesn't spook them, more often than not, they're gonna hit it. And it's not always a game of feeling the strike like with bass fishing, but more of sight fishing, which is why I really like this orange tail. I can cast this 40, 50, 60 feet out there, and I don't have the best eyesight, and I can still see this thing, this orange tail. And when that orange tail is in front of carp, and the carp start kind of moving around it, and all of a sudden that orange disappears, that's my indication. I need to start stripping in. I don't trout set. With carp, you really want to do the strip set. Pull, pull, pull. Once you feel it come tight, then you can raise your rod. But as soon as this orange disappears, you're in for it. So thank you guys for watching. If you want more videos like this, like and subscribe. I'm always tying. I'm always doing videos. I love doing the tying videos, and hopefully I can start getting some better camera equipment and start doing some casting tutorials and fishing tutorials. So look forward to that. I'll see you guys next time. Thank you for watching.